Jordan, you're joining me here for the triumphant return of another Listicles with Chris
Niccolls. Listicles with Niccolls doesn't sound good.
I thought we had it.
I thought we had a catchy name. Anyways, I guess not.
Why are we here?
Okay, so the reason we're here is because the world is full of so much positivity right now that we'd like to bring a little negativity into it by talking about the worst designed cameras of all time. We're not saying worst cameras. We're saying in terms of everybody took all these pieces, put them together in a way that makes no sense, and we're going to talk about them from all of the major camera manufacturers.
Yes.
Okay, it's me, Jordan, in my office because I'm editing this episode right now, and when we're talking about some of the worst designed cameras of all time, you know I wanted some spooky music tracks, and thankfully my friends at Audio came through with absolute flying colors, because Audio has a massive library of music that is actually created by real human beings who are compensated for their work with a variety of really intuitive search tools. And typically Audio offers lifetime access to this massive library of music for just under $500, which is totally reasonable, but I can do you way better, because if you use coupon code PetaPixel 199 at checkout, you can get lifetime access to this colossal and well-produced library of music for $199. That is an absolute smoking deal you should jump on right now. So go check out Audio and use coupon code PetaPixel 199 for a massive discount on this great music library. All right, let's talk about some bad cameras.
Now, before we get to our list of horrible cameras, I think it's also important to point out that we really want to stick to cameras that we have used and reviewed.
Right.
And that means fairly contemporary cameras. Like, we're thinking like
we've been
late
doing this for a while.
Yeah, we have. But like late 2000s, right? Like, we're not going to go into the sort of really weird, acid trip dream phase that all the digital companies went through with Mavicas and stuff like no. Yeah. So we're going to stick to ones that we've played with. And Jordan, I think it's also important to get out that this video is going to be highly subjective, okay? Yes. What's great for somebody might not work for another. I mean, we agree on everything, I know, 100%, but that's not the way the world works.
Well, right? And we all have some choices here. There may be some disagreements between us based on what we've actually used, but let's get started.
All right. Okay, so let's do this in no particular order, but we're going to start off with a notoriously bad camera, especially for us. I think we gave this camera worst camera of the year.
Yes.
And our
worst lens of the year. Worst video camera of the year.
Oh, we crapped all over it. It, of course, is the Canon XC10. This was designed to be this sort of hybrid bridge camera / video camera. I mean, first off, look, I think it was physically an ugly camera, but it had a lot of real handling issues. Yeah, and actually, you didn't review this camera.
No, I actually refused to review it. We turned to Levi Hallwell, who went on to become a very good filmmaker, to review that, and he had some strong thoughts about it.
Well, let's hear what he says.
And if this is Canon saying, hey, this is the future, well then the future is just as dire as every science fiction novel ever predicted. It's not looking good, folks.
Yeah, so it sucked. So to get more specific on the big issues with this, it was a variable aperture zoom on something designed for cinema.
But slow.
It was very slow, but on top of that, it was a manual zoom, which is really bad for video, as opposed to like a servo zoom, which would make a whole lot more sense. But my biggest issue with it, it was largely a touchscreen driven camera.
Yes.
But they included a loop. So
because it had
no EVF.
Yeah, no EVF. So you had to put this loop on, but then you couldn't use the touchscreen controls. But the touchscreen controls are like integral to using the camera, so you could take the loop off. And it was very top heavy. Like, anyways, awful camera. Some people have tried to defend it with us. You know,
they're
like
wrong.
They're wrong. Totally.
People have walked up to me, some famous ones, and said they disagree. Those people are all wrong.
They're all wrong.
Yeah, it's bad.
So Penny's going to join us because Penny actually is one of those people that thinks Micro Four Thirds is dead and hates it and thinks it's a dead man.
Penny?
Yeah. I know, it's awful. But anyway, so she hates this camera. That's why she's in my arms right now, because I have to control her physical anger. Right. But it's the Panasonic GF2, and this is kind of an interesting camera for us. I mean, I do think Panasonic has designed some very nice cameras. Maybe they're not always sexy, but back in the day, these G-series cameras, these compact cameras were cool and sexy, neat gadgets, and the GF1 was an insanely popular camera, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the big appeal for the GF1 and why it really kind of kick-started the mirrorless camera craze, I'd say, is because it was small, but it had great controls, and they kitted it with a beautiful 20mm f1.7, and riding on the success of that, they took away everything good.
Cool. They took away the command dials. I know the GF2 is designed to be this sort of camera that appeals to like more of a beginner crowd and more of a stylish crowd, had lots of fun colors, but everybody's just like, why? Why would you do this?
Yeah, and the GX series hadn't started yet. So if you were looking for a small enthusiast camera, you're like, well, the latest ones are just kind of toys. And the biggest one for me is they went from the beautiful 20mm 1.7, which gave you a really nice lens, big camera look, to a 14mm 2.5, which made your shots look like they were on a point and shoot.
Yeah, but you know what? Hey, they turned it around. They then came out with like the GX series cameras, really cool, and of course my favorite, the GM series. And they returned to that sexy small camera with a viewfinder, baby. The GM5 best camera.
I know, but the GF2 was definitely a camera that stalled the progress that Panasonic was making. It was a big disappointment, so it's on the list. Panasonic, you're on notice.
Yeah, so calm down, Pat.
I mean, 15, 20 years ago.
Just relax.
Sony time, and they had some weird stuff way back in the day. Certainly, they were very experimental with their designs. But the one I want to point out is the one that we're still fighting with today, because it's a current series, and that's their RX100 series.
For shame. How dare you?
I know they're very popular. They're very small cameras. Listen to me. No, listen to me. So the appeal of this is it's a camera that's great for enthusiasts, but all of the manual controls suck to use on those. You've got a little dinky back dial. You've got a clickless front control dial. And this is not in a vacuum, because like Panasonic and Canon brought out Type 1 enthusiast cameras with exponentially better controls, and Sony is now on version 7 of these small cameras with garbage controls. They've learned nothing.
No, I got to disagree with you, because they were insanely popular cameras. They went through many different visions. They had, in some cases, really nice lenses with fast apertures. I like fiddly controls. The GM5 is my favorite camera. But really, Jordan, I think you're getting too excited about this, because there's another camera that we both hated using from Sony that you're forgetting about, and you should know this, used it a lot, the Sony FS100/FS700.
Oh, God.
Right? Both of us use that camera and we're like, this is frustrating. The loop on this thing is always breaking. It's always falling off. It was awful.
Yeah, well, and the whole idea of, hey, let's put a LCD on top of the camera that can rotate in 2 directions, but then that meant the camera always had to be below your eye line. So, you know, when you're operating the camera, it's
awful.
At like Penny's eye level.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah. Luckily you're tall. Like, I mean, look, what did you like about it? Image quality was decent?
It was great, yeah, but the whole thing was a bad design. And remember one time I changed the ND filter too fast, and it was like a $3,000 repair, because they were like, no, you have to do it bit by bit by bit. If you don't, it will break your camera and it's not warranty.
Yeah, it would make weird clunky noises as you turned it around. Yeah, it was a very delicate camera, which sucks because it's supposed to be made for commercial work where you're going to beat a camera.
But the good thing there is we never have to look at that design again. Where the RX100s, I know if they ever do an 8, it's going to have those it's going to have those same fiddly-ass designs.
Jordan, how many times did we break the loop on the FS100?
6. OM systems. There can't possibly be a bad OM design because they've just been reusing Olympus designs.
Right, which means we have to go back to the Olympus. Now, when you told me that this was your choice, I have trouble with this. We're going to disagree on this as well, because we're actually talking about an older model that has, basically spawned the entire OM system after that. This was the last Olympus serious Micro Four Thirds camera, the EM1X.
Right.
It was technologically advanced. It handled beautifully. It was rugged as hell. Yes. What is your problem with this beautiful camera? It was a flagship in the truest sense for Olympus.
The big thing is it was very similar to the EM1 III that came right before it. It added a couple AI modes, but it wasn't a groundbreaking improvement. But you had this massive body that came out of it, which runs contrary to the entire idea of Micro Four Thirds. But there was stuff that was still miniaturized on it, like a micro HDMI port on this giant camera. Clearly, like, the people have spoken, because there was never a replacement model for this.
No, yeah. Well, because, so micro HDMI, I mean, those was practically the dark ages back then. Everything had bad ports. Come on. I mean, it's not like you're going to use video on this camera very much. So, look, I think the emphasis for Olympus at the time was, we're trying to compete with big brands like Canon and Nikon, and honestly Sony at that point too. And like, they're making these serious flagship cameras for wildlife shooters. And Olympus really wanted to hold on to their wildlife market. And yeah, I will agree that the whole concept of Micro Four Thirds for wildlife and sports is it's smaller and lighter. And they were kind of like going against that. But some people like those big bodies. They like the big vertical grip, the excellent battery life, and the fact that it balances those big heavy lenses really well. But is it telling that, yes, when OM system took over and they made the excellent OM1, they decided to go small and compact again?
Yeah, totally. And it came out so quickly afterwards as well. So if you wanted the latest tech, you had this giant body with outdated technology.
I think it's just bad timing, not bad design.
I'm going to call it the worst design camera they ever made for digital.
Wow. Okay, so this next camera that I want to talk about.
Bad camera.
Yeah, it is a bad camera. And this is pretty early in our careers, but I specifically remember hating even just the act of holding this camera. Holding this Quattro in my hand is like gripping onto a sea urchin tightly. We're talking about the Sigma Quattro, not the SLR, but the fixed lens mirrorless camera.
The whole series.
The whole series. And it's because it wasn't the lens that was a problem, it was the handle itself.
Yeah, it was angular.
Weird. Yeah, I mean, Sigma were really trying some strange designs. It was eye-catching, but yeah, it was like a trapezoid grip. The hand's not really shaped like that.
You said it's really comfortable if you wanted to shoot like around corners, like hold it here with the camera
If you hold it sideways so that the camera's facing you and the lens is going out this way,
yeah,
it actually was quite comfortable. Holding it this way was weird. And it wasn't just the grip, it was also the fact that the camera was like this long.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily long. So you got this lens on one side, this weird grip on the other, a whole bunch of wasted space. I would also go on top of this and say, I feel like the Quattro's timing was poor because Foveon at that time, I think it was really on its way out.
Yeah, absolutely. You had these high resolution important cameras like Nikon D810, Sony A7R was out there.
Yeah.
And this thing just looked long, like you were doing way too many compromises.
Yes.
To get like maybe a hair more resolution, but not really compared to what Bayer sensors were doing.
All right, Jordan, next one.
Yep.
It's going to be the Pentax Ricoh conglomerate.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you probably already know where I'm going with this one. It's going, like, in my opinion, this is one of the ugliest, stupidest, poorly designed, dumbed down cameras ever made.
Agreed.
The Pentax KO1.
This camera.
Wow. So this was designed by a very famous designer, Mark Newson, who wanted to make something
Great
fresh
chairs.
and exciting. Great chairs, right? But just like, look, okay. So this is technically a mirrorless camera, but it was designed to use Pentax K-mount like SLR lenses,
right,
which are by default designed to work with a mirror box. So you're talking a mirrorless camera with a chunky body design, but no mirror in there. So it's
just
pointless.
empty space.
Pointless, and it made it
You
huge
can't even
and ugly.
store things in there.
Dude, and then he put like 4 different kinds of rubber around the camera, thinking that would be cool.
Remember
you had
the
to,
ports? You'd like be trying to stuff the rubber back in to cover the ports up again.
Yeah, it wasn't even that comfortable. There was no EVF.
Yeah.
Just a back panel, but no rotation. Like
it wasn't even a touch screen.
you don't. Everything that you would want out of a camera this size, you would get in the Pentax Excellent K-mount at DSLRs at the time, right? Yeah. It was such a stupid camera and expensive because it was supposed to be this modern art masterpiece.
Let's remember as well, this was kitted with a 40 millimeter on an APS-C. It was a little pancake. So your kit lens was a 60 millimeter focal length, which is good for absolutely nothing. I lost a challenge a few years ago.
Right? Jordan, this shoots video.
And my punishment was to shoot our show on a KO1 for like 4 episodes, and it was hell. Yeah. You can go back and watch those, but your eyes will bleed.
You absolutely hated that. That was cruel.
That camera.
Okay, this next one, Jordan. It's fitting.
You should be terrified right now.
I am terrified because, I mean, Easter's just around the corner and I'm about to get crucified. Okay, my opinion on this camera. What is it that we're starting with? Because you like this camera.
Well, no, I like this series. The Fujifilm X Pro 3 is where they were like, let's get radical with our design. And on the back, it's going to show the film simulation like it's a roll of film in the back. And I'm like, cool. What about when you flip this around? And they're like, well, you can only use it waist level. And also, it's got an incredibly flimsy cable that the majority of people will break before 100,000 shots on this thing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, I know a lot of people love the X Pro series, so we are specific.
I like the X Pro series. X Pro 2, great camera.
They're fine. I've never been big on them because I just felt the hybrid OVF like really wasn't
fun. You hate fun.
Yeah, I hate fun. It's just, I mean, it's fine, but I never ended up using it or appreciating the benefits. So I thought it was always a silly series in the first place. I was happy that it went away for so long, and I don't know if we're ever going to get one again. I'd be fine if we never do. All right, Jordan, this is an oldie but a baddie. And this is probably the best example, in my opinion, of one of the most egregious camera design issues. Not just because of how the camera is designed, but what it stands for.
Okay, what camera?
This is the Hasselblad Lunar.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So this was effectively a rebranded Sony NEX7, a great mirrorless camera, right? High resolution sensor for the time, interchangeable lenses, fantastic, right? Always loved that camera. And the NEX7 was sleek and svelte and compact. The Lunar was this weird atrocity where they just stuck on what they thought was expensive, prestigious things, like a big weird wooden handle, or sometimes it was made out of like crocodile skin. Sometimes it was like gold, or like it was really weird.
It looked like it was Dubai'd, if you could use that as a verb. It was a fully Dubai'd version of an NEX7. I never touched this. Tell me about the experience.
Well, the grip was overly large for this camera, right? It was very chunky, way bigger, so you couldn't fit in your pocket or anything like that. It had these dumb control dials on the top that were like cones with knurling. If anybody's ever had the Meiji candy from Japan, it's like a choco strawberry candy.
Oh yeah, those are
that's exactly the shape of it. So imagine rubbing your finger on choco strawberry candies to try to turn.
Seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. But it was also this. Okay, we're talking straight up. The internals are NEX7, but because Hasselblad put their name on it, threw like a garnet gem into the back control.
I call it bedazzling.
Bedazzling it, and all of this junk. It was insanely expensive. But it was also an example of something that wasn't prestigiously beautiful, but just tacky and ugly. So egregious, horrible. And this is funny because they released the Stellar at the same time.
The little guy, based on an RX100 with a bad control scheme.
Don't you dare. And that was a gorgeous camera. Like, you had the walnut handle on that, the titanium. Like, that was beautiful. That looked the part and justified the extra cost. The Lunar, though, was just...
There's an important footnote here, though, is that the Stellar was such a colossal misstep, they had to basically change the entire management of Hasselblad and get back to focusing on photography because people hated that camera so much. So maybe it was a great thing after all.
But of course, it's not just the prestigious Hasselblad company we're going to pick on. We're also going with another perennial favorite of expensive premium
We're coming
cameras.
after you, luxury brands.
Leica. Now, this is interesting because, like... You saw me use this camera, and I distinctly remember my main takeaway was that I just did not personally enjoy it.
You didn't vibe with it.
I didn't. That's exactly it. I didn't vibe with it. And it's the Leica CL. This is, of course, the modern one, not the old film Minolta one, but like the modern 2014, I think it was.
Don't make me do research.
I can't remember either. But you know what? I remember reviewing the camera, even though it's been well over a decade since I did it. It had these two thumb dials on the back with press-in buttons on top, but that meant that you had to use your thumb for both. So it wasn't quick. You know, if I want to change something, I had to go back and forth with one finger. I still want that front dial.
It was a deliberate type of photography.
No, it was a stupid idea.
Okay.
It took L-mount lenses, but it was an APS-C camera. Fine, I don't mind that. It was basically intended to use the lenses from the somewhat failed Leica TL system, although that was a far sexier camera system.
It had good
but
touchscreen.
Yeah, the touchscreen implementation on it was kind of brutal though, because like you could use the touchscreen, but then when you brought the camera up to the EVF, you would undoubtedly touch the touchscreen. It had really annoying like long press and swipe controls that didn't work very well. I just didn't enjoy it. It was a pretty camera. Hugh Brownstone, a good friend of the show, big Leica file, he actually really liked it.
Usually right about things, occasionally wrong about things.
I don't know. I didn't like it, but you never used the camera, right? I don't know.
So yeah, I got an alternate because I never touched that. I don't think the Leica 240, the M Type 240, was a good design at all. They decided to like bulk up an M-mount camera so it could have like more live view and video functionality, which is the exact opposite of what those need. And it still had that stupid removable base plate that I'm like, we're on digital. Why do I have to take this thing off to change the memory card? This is hogwash. And fortunately, again, it was such a bad design that they completely reinvented with the M10, which is how a Leica should feel and handle. But the 240, it doesn't even get a number, right? It's like the M8, the M9, then the 240. That's a weird, stupid camera. And then they went 10 and 11.
I don't disagree with you on that.
What?
Wow, Leica, two stupid cameras. All right, Jordan, last and maybe least. Well, no, but you know, they're all pretty bad cameras in my opinion. Nikon.
Yep.
We have to do Nikon.
I struggled with this. They design really nice cameras.
They do, actually. We did struggle. So I have to say, big thanks to you for actually remembering that, because I totally tuned out this camera.
We were like, maybe we just skip Nikon on this.
I know.
And then
I was like, oh wait, there is a camera that I did not like at the time. It's the Nikon DF, which stands for deliberately flawed, right?
definitely flawed.
Definitely flawed. I like that.
Defiantly flawed.
Okay, so for those that don't know, the Nikon DF was a very strange camera. So when I first saw the concept, I was like, oh yes, right up my alley. I love the old school Nikon FEFM design.
Yep.
They're gonna put this on a DSLR. It's gonna be awesome, finally.
I remember, like, even before, this is way before the vintage craze. You were like, Nikon, you gotta give me a classic looking DSLR. And I remember the rep was so proud. He's like, Chris, get ready. Here it is, and he passed it to you, and what was your reaction?
I don't know. I think I was trying to be polite in front of him, but I was probably like, no, I don't.
It was really
no, I don't.
chunky.
No, I don't like it. Yeah, so from a distance, it mimics to from the front at a far distance. Yes, in very specific situation with the right light. Yeah. It kind of sort of looks like an old school Nikon F camera, but up close it looked like a weird plastic DSLR with a skin, effectively like a vintage skin on it. Yeah. But also the controls weren't very good. I mean, the PASM dial was on the far right, which is a weird place for it, right where you'd want an exposure comp, and it was tiny. It was so weird and small. It had this minuscule LCD next to it, which is practically useless. And then on the left, it had this cool sort of ISO dial and exposure comp thing, but it was massive. So it's like the right side was unbalanced and tiny. The left side was massive and huge.
Yeah, and then the really weird thing, it had control dials on it as well. So you had like these vintage style dials, which you could ignore, and it almost wanted you to ignore them.
Yes.
Choose the other ones, and then if you use the other ones, then it disabled yours. So you'd look at your shutter speed dial and be like, I'm 250th. Oh, but I used the dials instead, so I'm actually not.
Which was confusing. I found it confusing.
Totally.
Yeah. On top of that, it was a weird sensor choice. They actually pulled out a flagship sensor out of what? The D4, 16 megapixels. Yes. Good sensor for, at the time, dynamic range and low light performance, high ISO performance. But a weird choice for this camera. Like, why put a flagship specialized camera in something that was obviously more aimed at enthusiast use? The only people I know that enjoyed this camera, to my mind, hipsters, sure, and wedding photographers who wanted the low light performance, didn't need the high megapixels, and wanted something that looked really stylish, again, from a distance on your person as you're walking around the wedding.
Also, it had the consumer autofocus. So like professional sensor, consumer autofocus, weird camera. I mean, they never made another one. There's a good reason for that.
You could take good shots on it. it was such a weird design. Ugly up close.
I'm sorry, Cameron Whitman, but don't like that camera.
Stupid camera. Okay, Jerome, we got to wrap things up, but I think we covered a lot of them, of course.
We can escape the bad memories now and look forward to the future of not terrible camera design.
I'm going to throw an apology here because I know we've called a lot of these things stupid and useless and ugly and hideous.
We've offended some people.
Yeah, we've offended some people, not only the owners of these cameras, but also the designers who made them. But look, I mean...
Oh, right, they're people too.
Yeah, they are people too, and they work hard to make these things. But you know what? Camera design is, well, like the actual physical look of it, the handling characteristics, the way it feels. These are important things, and they are subjective things, but they're important things. Yeah. And so I think it's important to talk about it. This is our opinion on the cameras that we reviewed. Let us know if you agree or disagree. You got the comment section below. Maybe we're the worst design camera reviewers of all time. I don't know. You can talk about
I have a few design flaws on me, I'll tell you that.
I don't know. I think I handle sometimes pretty well, depending on where you grab me. Anyways, also check out the PetaPixel podcast.
For more gold like that.
Yes, the PetaPixel podcast, we talk about a lot of these things outside of just camera reviews. Actually, this would fit on the podcast really nice. Yep. You can listen to it on all your favorite podcasting apps or just watch it on this exact same channel. And also, how can they support us, Jordan?
The best way is with a PetaPixel membership. For only $3 a month or $30 for a whole year, look at all these wonderful benefits here. But much more than those benefits to you is the knowledge that you're helping us make just killer content. Like two dudes sitting in a chair talking at a camera.
And just crapping all over all the cameras that are out there and all the hard work that people have done. Anyways, I think we should probably leave while we're behind. We should probably just quit while we're behind. So
thank you so much for watching. We'll see you all soon in an episode of PetaPixel.
Bye-bye.